Futureproof is sponsored by Carrot Events, showcasing your company values with high-impact, bespoke events. Hello and welcome to Futureproof. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah Hotwood, as I continue these television programmes. And today I'm on my own, and I want to talk about conflict, about how to deal with difficult things. And sometimes it's quite powerful when people talk about these things and they have their own story. And Paul and I are actually dealing with something that isn't very pleasant at the moment. The kids are fine, we are fine, but within the family, a bit further afield, there is some stuff that's going on, and it's pretty difficult to navigate and to deal with. And this to me is all part of future proofing. We've talked about robots, we've talked about machine learning, and they will never take offense, they will never have conflict, or the only thing that will happen is whether there is a function that goes wrong or whether they run out of energy for one reason or another. But as human beings, we obviously have to manage the emotional side of who we are, and also that communication and that rapport. And we all know in business or in any community, it's really not very nice when it goes wrong. And so when I talk about it today, I'm actually addressing some of the things that we are dealing with as a family. And so we're all, if you like, we're taking our own medicine with this stuff, thinking through how to manage what is going on. As I've worked with clients over the years, there are a few that have shared stories that they have come from a dysfunctional background, that certainly their childhood or their early years weren't what they could have been. And so I think with Paul and I dealing with what we're dealing with at the moment, I really have gone and had a look at dysfunctional and what does that look like, and how can we use emotional intelligence to address some of those barriers, if you like, that are causing a breakdown in relationship and causing things to be dysfunctional. So if any of you are familiar with Myers-Briggs, you have a kind of a pyramid shape, and then we have the bottom layer, which is food, air and water. And basically what Myers-Briggs is saying is from the bottom up, in order to go to the next level, you must always have what's underneath it. So in other words, in a business, you cannot hold hands and say, it's okay everybody, let's collaborate, let's all work together on this, if somebody is actually under threat of losing their job, which means they can't pay the bills, they can't feed themselves or their families, and so therefore their food, air and water concerns will dominate anything else that's associated with teamwork and taking responsibility, all those kind of things, because they are just completely focused on food, air and water. And in front of me, I actually have a similar pyramid. That pyramid on the bottom layer, so this is looking at dysfunction or dysfunctional relationships, why things are dysfunctional. And there are 5 things which, as I say, are in pyramid shape that address this. And it always makes me think of Myers-Briggs. If you don't know, not Myers-Briggs, Maslow. If you don't know Maslow, go and have a look at, Google him, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So on the bottom layer, it talks about absence of trust. So if relationships, if the business is dysfunctional, then fundamentally at the bottom there is an absence of trust. And to me, trust is a massive, massive part of emotionally intelligent thinking. And I might say more about it on another occasion, but I have addressed the question, can you work with somebody you don't trust? How can you elevate levels of trust? How can you actually damage trust around you and your character and your values? And that's a conversation that you can always have with yourself, but it is something that I will address deeper another time. Then above, you've got lack of trust. You've then got fear of conflict. And I've said before, too many people will wear a badge of honour and say, oh, I don't do conflict, as if it's something that should be commended. And I believe that confrontation is a life skill. And if we don't learn how to confront, then number one, we won't get all the results that we want, but also we are actually contributing to a dysfunctional environment. Carrying on from there, we've got lack of commitment. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do people around you do what they say they are going to do? And, I'm thinking of people who will sometimes go down memory lane and go into their childhood. And one of the biggest memories where there is a dysfunctional memory associated to their upbringing, one of the big memories too is that people did not do what they said they were going to do. So whether that was, to take them out somewhere, or to bring them something, or to do something, or actually to stop doing something, or to stop saying something. And people just, this lack of commitment, and I have to say sometimes I see it in the workplace. People almost look at me as if to say, yes, well, it's perfectly normal to overpromise and underdeliver. Just say yes and nod to everything, and then if I don't do it, it doesn't matter. They'll probably forget about it, and that's not the case. And we certainly know that people are not trustworthy if they will not commit to commitment, if that's the right word. So always make sure that you do exactly what you say you're going to do. Avoiding accountability. I think when I've seen this in business, one of the main reasons why it's there is because the business itself does not give permission to fail. And I can hear lawyers screaming at me now. Permission to fail does not mean that, as I say, from the lawyer's point of view, that it is okay to fail. Obviously, you can be sued and things like that. But the point is if a failure has occurred, announce it. Go and tell somebody, or obviously put it right if you can, but if you can't, go and tell somebody as soon as possible. Fail early, fail quickly, and then the problem can be rectified. The quicker you fail, or you acknowledge a failure, the greater the likelihood that that failure will stay internal to the business or internal to the family situation. So we don't either let the problem leak, the failure leak, and therefore damage what's going on. I think at the moment what's come to me is dryers that have burst into flames. You often think, did somebody on that production line know that had happened, or that there was a sniff of smoke but they weren't sure and they said nothing? And I just think of that. Fail early. The sooner you do, the more likely it will be contained, and that's what we want for any success of business, or indeed the community that we are in. And the last one is attention to results. Always make sure that you are results driven, that we are looking at outcomes. So I hope that some of this may make sense to you as you plan and run your businesses. If you have a dysfunctional team in the business, if your whole business as a whole is dysfunctional, then I suggest that there are problems in either all or one of these areas. And the lower down we go, the more likely it is that the problem is in all the areas. So if I start at the top on this occasion, so attention to results, avoiding accountability, lack of commitment, fear of conflict. This is where it starts becoming a bigger problem, and you'll know that there are more and more people affected when this is a problem. And then absence of trust. If a business has an absence of trust, then we really, really are in trouble. So what can we do about it? How can we change some of these behaviours? First of all, I would suggest it's cultural. And I can say, with the situation that Paul and I are dealing with, we would suggest there is a very, very strong historical, cultural link to what is going on. It's something that has been there for a long time. The behaviour patterns have been around other people. We are just noticing it because it is now actually directly affecting us. But I would suggest it's cultural. How do we deal with cultural issues? The best thing I've always suggested, which I think is really, really quick and easy, if you like, that everybody buys into, is why don't you design a mantra for your business? All for one, one for all. It can be, something that's very, very well known, or indeed you can design it yourself. Key thing is, it is not for the boardroom or for management to write it out and give it to the staff. It's for the staff to find their own mantra that they write and they design and they compose themselves, because then you've got their emotional buy-in, and then they will work to fulfill on that mantra. So why not give it a try? EQ, emotional quotient, is better known as emotional intelligence. It is a tangible tool that can sit alongside your services or your product, and it can be taught. Leaders with high EQ have less stress, they're more effective, and they earn more money. There's a great saying, just because we have pains, it does not give us permission to be a pain. I believe that teaching emotional intelligence has a direct impact on your sense of success and your net profits. EQ will empower you and your workforce to drive the change that you want. Change brings transition. EQ can help unpack what's holding you back and speed up that period of transition.